What was more important to you when putting this staff together?
Look, I thought the biggest thing was when we're coaches, we're teachers, right? And it's one thing to have a lot of knowledge, but how do we communicate that? How do we teach it? How do we develop? And that was really important for the staff that were put together. And like I said, I think in my press conference, right? I didn't want a lot of people that were exactly like me. There's obviously going to be people that share a vision and do have some of the thought process. But as we put it all together, trying to be really intentional about, okay, we have this type of personality in this room. Now, what are we looking for in this room, and kind of putting it all together. And it was unique because I kind of know what's in those rooms too. So what these rooms need as a coach, and I'm really excited. And we just obviously still have some spots to kind of go through, but I've said all along I want to be quick, but not in a hurry, and making sure that we're getting the right guys and not just, hey, this guy's available, let's go get him.
Now that you've had a little bit of time to sit down with Jim, when you look at the defense, how challenging do you think it's going to be to change the scheme with the personnel and all the things that are going to have to go into that?
Look, I think nothing's different about the defense and the offense. Like, we're going into the off season, it's all blank canvas, and then, like, hey, what does it look like? What do we have? And let's build it around who we have and what it looks like, right? And the offense and the defense is going to look different year to year. And I think it's not about, hey, this drastic scheme change, as opposed to, as we go through free agency, as we go through the draft, is collecting, once we get the talent of what we got and we learn the guys, we put together a scheme that fits around them and not the other way around. And look, I think, I'm pretty sure you guys had an opportunity to talk with him today. You can tell he has a clear vision for what he's looking for, but he adapts, he has versatility, and he's willing to say, okay, hey, this is ideal world, but if we don't have this, well, then we're going to have to be able to do this, this, and this. And so that was really important to me. And I know it's really early, but have had a lot of really good conversations.
You guys have worked with some of the same people, whether it's Sean or Dave Aranda when you were at LSU. Who did you talk to about Jim leading up to the decision? And I guess, what were your takeaways hearing what other people said about him?
Yeah, right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't do a lot of or have a lot of conversations throughout the season, right, with these guys. And but I think it's really important through the years, when I watch tape with guys, or when I watch tape and seeing how teams are coached and schemes and their players, I kind of always jot down, like, man, these DBs do a really good job, or like this linebacker crew is really good. Who coaches them? And just kind of keep that in the back of my mind. And sometimes you're running the guys at the combine, and you show them some love. That, man, you do a really good job with those guys. And Jim's been a guy that I've always have been following for years. And it was really important for me to kind of know Dave. Pete Carmichael was obviously with him. A lot of those guys in that building speak very highly of him. And but it was making sure I didn't just talk to the people that I kind of knew. Was kind of reaching out to people from all of his stops, and not being a rush to the decision. And man, he's exactly what I was looking for.
Joe, I know it's early, but is your goal as an offensive coach and play caller and now head coach to give a level of autonomy to Jim as the defensive coordinator? I know obviously as a head coach you're involved, but on that side of the ball, is that what you would look at from a defensive coordinator in terms of, like, it's his side of the ball, or how do you look at the relationship you have with a defensive coordinator now as head coach?
Yeah, look, I don't have a side of the ball. I obviously have an experience on the side of the ball, but part of that, what's exciting is me learning the defense, communicating the defense, being able to talk the defense. I'm not calling the plays. I believe in ownership, and yeah, I'm naturally going to gravitate. I have to call the plays. I'm in the offensive room, but part of that in the off season is making sure I'm understanding exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, making sure that we have a lot of collaboration in our staff of offensive line coaches, getting with our defensive coaches, seeing what breaks down protections, and making sure that we're not just, hey, this is just what we're doing and we're keeping it moving. But I have a lot of trust in him. That's why he's here. We did a really good job, and we're still going through it, of kind of putting the staff together. When I always say, if I ever became a head coach, I've been in places where I get the job and I look and all the offices are already full. And there's a lot of good that comes with it, but I think it's important that you have some guys that also understand what you're looking for, some visions, and as you put it all together, and then making sure that we kind of go on the outside as well. And and I think that allows him to have a little more trust and a little more versatility with it. But Jim's the defensive coordinator. He's calling the plays. I'm going to put all the trust in him. But I'm also not going to be completely just removed from the defense as well.
Joe, and to that point, the answer you just gave, I think, is making me think of something Jim said, where he said when head coaches micromanage, sometimes they drown. And I'm paraphrasing, I don't want to misquote him. For you, as a first-time head coach, I'm sure you want to make sure you're on top of everything as much as possible, but you also don't want to overstep and then micromanage. How do you find that balance, and how difficult is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's all a work in progress, and I think the biggest thing is we can't try to just decide these things in season, right? That's what the off season's for. It's like, man, I'm excited when the staff is getting together and they're just starting from the ground floor of I'm going to be learning the defense with that, and I'm hoping there's going to be a lot of communication and collaboration and building it with them, right? Of, hey, look, I've been on the other side. This is something, I know you guys are trying to talk through this, but this puts a lot of stress on me. And he has a clear vision for what he's looking for, and it matches what I was looking for. That's why he's here. I can't do everything. I know that, and I don't want to do that. I know what it's like calling plays. I know how hard it is putting together a game plan and calling plays. And when you get input from a lot of different people, it can go a lot of different ways. And so a lot of trust with them, but I am going to always kind of, hey, I know this offensive system. Here's some things that I think might, but at the end of the day, I got to trust them to do their job.
Joe, you mentioned looking for teachers in your coaching staff. How do you gauge that during an interview?
Well, I try to, I don't want to give away the exact questions that I kind of go with, because it's some of them I think reflect on things that you've done poorly in the past and seeing what you've kind of learned from. We've all made mistakes, both teaching professionally, whatever that is, and kind of how we growth. And I think a lot of times you can learn how they are as a teacher by the growth that they've had from their experiences. And how would you have done this differently? How would you have got thrown at how would you have approached this differently this time? And hey, tell me about, I like to always bring up different type of personalities. All right, well, this guy, yeah, he gets it. He loves football. But this one, man, he needs this. How would you communicate? How would you teach? Because there's not one way. And look, it's different for every position too. There's certain positions that need a certain level of communication, and that was what was really cool about, when taking this job and building the staff, is I do understand what's in some of these rooms too. But being a teacher is being able to be able to be clear about what you're talking about, being able to understand where they're at, and be able to then making sure that you can hold yourself accountable of like, okay, if they're not getting it done, then I'm allowing it, or I'm not doing a good enough job teaching it, and making sure that you're continuing to kind of grow from that perspective and asking others. So we're not going to be perfect. I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm hoping I'm surrounding myself with a bunch of people that kind of are always looking to evolve and grow.
Pete told a story. Sorry, go ahead.
I got you. What you got?
Pete told a story about when you guys were at LSU, or when you guys.
I don't ever like it when you start that way. When Pete told a story, you never know where that's going to go.
Well, he said that Coach O called him and said that if you could gather up a couple of coaches and show up at LSU and kind of go over a couple of different things, and he said you kind of stole the show, and that's when he knew that you were going to be a little different. What do you remember about that day and that experience?
Yeah, I remember Pete calling me, talking about, hey, look, this is some of the things that LSU is looking for. I have no background in any of these things. Would you be interested in going to LSU and speaking? And I'm like, yeah, no big deal. I think it's going to be just, me speaking with, some of the offensive staff. And you walk in and you got Dave Aranda sitting right next to me with his notebook out, and, he's the best defensive coordinator in the country. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be a little different. I'll never forget, as I kind of approached that as a potential interview, not as an interview, but like, this is my opportunity to get in front of, some of the great minds of in our game. I'm just a coaching assistant, right? And I'll never forget, I got in the car after, and Pete Carmichael looked at me and was like, that guy's probably going to hire you, and then pretty shortly. I kind of brushed it off, and, it ended up working out that way. So, not something I went into it thinking was going to happen. I thought it was just a great opportunity to get in front of Ed Orgeron, Steve Ensminger, Dave Aranda, just that staff. You walked in and it was a completely full room of everything. It was like, woof, all right, this isn't just offensive staff. Here I go. And had a lot of fun with it, and, it opened up a lot of doors.
So what did you see in the way that Pete worked with Sean Payton that maybe appealed to you, and kind of a similar role here in what he brings?
Yeah, Pete game plans to call the game. Like it's not. I think sometimes people think like an offensive coordinator that's a God bless you. That's not a non-play caller. Is just kind of like an assistant or like hey, just getting everything ready for you. That's not what I was looking for, and that's not what Pete is. Pete is, if I ever, in any moment of the game, can't call the game, Pete is always prepared to call it. He goes through the week with the mindset of calling the game, preparing, and doing everything that. How Pete will prepare and do and go through this season is no different than me last season, and so I thought that was so important. Is it's not like he's just sitting waiting around for me to make decisions. Like he's taking control and he's rolling with it. And we spent a lot of time in the off season of sharing, understanding what the vision and what we're building and putting it all together so that the offensive staff can continue moving forward. The offensive staff can move forward when I'm not in the room. And I know Pete can do that because I've sat there and seen how, the train keeps moving even when, Coach Payton wasn't in there. And again, I'm sure you guys got a feel of him. He's as bright as they come. He's as organized, and he's a great communicator. And I think those are all critical because like you guys are saying, I obviously know I can't do it all. And I don't want to.
Sorry, knowing Josh and knowing Pete, why did you think that relationship would work?
Because I think Pete is an incredible communicator that has been around seen a lot of great QB play, understand what it looks like, but understands that there's not one way that it should look like. I've seen the impact that Drew Brees has had on, quarterbacks like Drew throughout his career, and how much respect a guy like Drew Brees has in Pete Carmichael, and then also knowing that Pete doesn't view it as like, well, this is how I coach Drew Brees. This is how you have to coach Josh Allen. Understanding both of their personalities and how they're going to mix, and with our quarterback coach, and really excited about the group we're kind of putting together.
Coach, I know it's only been 1 week and about 60 interviews, right? But how has this week been for you, and how has your approach to leadership changed now that you're in that role?
Yeah, I know I might be in the head coaching role, but I've woke up with the same mindset, same approach every day that I've been coaching. The only difference is I'm going to a different office, right? I know the guys aren't here, and it's a little different. I might be on my phone a lot more. I'm usually never on my phone, and I've been on my phone more than I ever have in my life the last week. But my approach, my work ethic, the time I'm waking up, nothing's changed. It's kind of who I am. And I'm just I'm excited of what we're putting together, and man, I can't wait for when the guys actually show up.
Jim said that he spent a lot of time with the scouting staff, and Brandon, I know Brandon mentioned on the radio you guys have been doing that now. For him, it's brand new. He's got to tell them kind of a little bit more of his vision. You've already been with the scouting staff and Brandon in the front office. Can you take us into those discussions from your standpoint of how that works with you, explaining like what your vision is for the offense, and so they can do their jobs effectively?
Yeah, the vision is so important to me. Like a lot of times we like to find flaws in players, right? Both free agency, draft, and we like to focus on what they can't do as opposed to what they can do, right? And that's what's so important is when we get guys, right? Like no one's perfect. Like if we can get Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, Andre Reed, yeah, we'll take all of them, right? Like, but I understand everybody that we're going to be evaluating is going to have some things that they need to develop and work on. But if they have, what is their redeeming trait, and what is that quality that, man, I can see that fit with us. And he might not be able to do this, but we'll develop that. I don't need him to do that right now. I need him to be able to do this, and this. And so I think that's the biggest thing as we go into it is making sure, and they already have that mindset, is our scouts and coaches understand that we're not going to find the perfect player and the perfect fit, but we have an idea of what we're looking for, and let's not eliminate a guy because they can't do this or this. Let's focus on what their strengths are, and when we put it together, okay, hey, this guy might be able to rush the passer, and this he might struggle stopping the run, but he's an elite pass rusher when he match up on a guard. Well, let's put him in that position. We know what his issues are. Let's move him around. And so I know that's a terrible analogy, but that's kind of why I think it's important for coaches to explain what they're looking for, ideal world, but also explain that we're willing to be flexible. We want to adapt. And as long as you give us a bunch of football players, we'll be able to find – it's our job as coaches to put those guys in those positions.
Jeff Rodgers obviously brings a lot of NFL experience, and he's worked with first-time head coaches too. What do you see in that relationship, and how can he, help you too.
I mean, he's already been helping me, and that's what's the special teams coordinator, right? He's with, like, he's basically runs a team meeting every day, right? Like there's only a select few of guys that aren't on special teams, and so and the fact that he's been in a lot of these, not a lot of these, he's been in some of the transition periods, and he's been in organizations where they've moved on from staff and kept him, so he's been able to see different lenses. He's already kind of helped me, and it's been really cool to kind of see the communication style, because this is our first time going through it together. I'm not telling you what to do. We're just talking through things that have worked well, things that haven't, and that openness and that collaboration has allowed us to it's kind of helped our relationship in the few days that we've kind of been going. But I know the knowledge he has from a football standpoint, but now just seeing the organizational skills, the game management thoughts he has as he goes through things, and his ideas of, hey, some of the successful off seasons and different ways that he's done it through the years, that's all helpful for me.
Coach Bo, can you tell us a little bit more about Coach Bo, your quarterbacks coach? He's been coaching a lot of young quarterbacks the last few years, and there's so much when you talk about being a teacher. There's a lot that comes with that. You're starting from the ground zero with a guy, not assuming they know anything, and I think that is such a huge component. No matter if you have Josh Allen, is all right, we're going to teach you the basics. We're going to start over every single year, and because there's always elements for us to grow. Been around a lot of great minds. Has coached the quarterbacks for a long time, has had experience calling plays. The last 2 years, you learn. I know what that's like to walk into an interim position, and the challenges that come with it, and so being able to kind of communicate with him. But he was a guy, you get talking with him, you can talk for a while with it. Like he loves football, and you can feel that passion, and really excited to be able. Thought there were going to be some coordinator roles that he was probably going to get. So I'm glad that he wanted to be here, and that was important, and I'm excited about that.
Which members of the offensive coaching staff are going to be returning?
Yeah, so a lot of it is still there. The staff it's always going to be a moving. The goalpost is still moving, right? We're still kind of working through some of that, but Kelly Skipper will be back, Rob Boris will be back. Austin Gunn, DJ Mingus, Kyle Shermer, Millie Wilson. So working through a lot of those guys. Did I said Rob Boris, right? Rob Boris as well. There's Mark Lubick. My apologies. So still sorting through. There's some guys that the coaching staff is. We still got some work to do in the coaching staff, but I love what we've built, the collaboration that we've had, and where we're going.
The addition of Pete, what could that potentially mean for James Cook?
Look, I think Pete's going to impact every room, not just the quarterback room, not just James Cook. I mean, look, he's had a lot of history with really good running backs and Pro Bowl running backs that have made plays in the run game and the pass game and a vision. And I think anytime you bring new people into a building, there's a lot of good that can come with it, because a lot of people have clean slates, and there's knowledge and experience from where they've been that can feel a little different, some different coaching points. And as long as we're all speaking the same language and collaborating with it, I think will be beneficial. But look, James had a great year last year. James is a great running back, and now how does he continue to evolve his game and continue to grow, just like our offense and our defenses and special teams are going to need to. So, excited about what's next with him, and I know Pete will have a huge impact on that.